Hello everyone, so now it is time for my last favorites video of the year. So today I'm talking about my top 10 favorite YA contemporary books I read in 2020. It's no secret, I really love YA contemporaries. I only read about 20 or so this year, but I still want to do a whole video dedicated to it because there are just some that I really love that I want to recommend and that I want to talk about. So like I said, these are my top 10 YA contemporary books I read this year, and I'm so excited to share them with you. The first one, actually there's a couple books in this video that are kind of cheating, but again, it's my channel, so I guess my rules, I don't know. That is The Inheritance Games by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is technically a YA mystery thriller and I threw it in here, but I still want to talk about it. This book, it only got like a 3.5. It's not like a 5-star, but I just really enjoyed it and had such a fun time reading it that it's making this favorites list. Is that contradictory? I don't know, but this book is just a fun time. If you want a book with kind of, not a lot of depth, but just kind of a fun mystery, like clue kind of game, this is a great book for you. So we follow a character named Avery who is pretty poor. Her mother has passed away, her dad is a recluse, and she lives with her half-sister, and they're just trying to scrape by until one day at school she gets an announcement that she has like inherited like $1 billion from this billionaire that's died, and she has no clue who it is. She's not a relative or anything like that. He's just some random guy that has left her a lot of money. And so she has to travel to Texas to the Hawthorne house because the guy, Tobias Hawthorne, that left her the money put a stipulation that she has to live in the Hawthorne house for a year to get the money. And when she moves there, she's quickly greeted by all of his family members that are kind of mad that they didn't inherit all the money, as well as his grandsons, and kind of a hunt goes on and she tries to figure out why she was left all this money. It's just as absurd as it sounds, but it was a fun roller coaster ride that really reminded me of like a YA version of Knives Out. I really had a good time reading it. I will continue on with the series. I liked it a lot. Coming in at number 9 is American Royals by Katharine McGee. I actually read both books in the series because it is a duology, and I did really prefer American Royals more, honestly. This book kind of follows if George Washington decided not to be the president, if he decided to be the king, and we follow his descendants. So we follow a character named Beatrice, who is next in line for the throne. She's next to be the queen. We follow her sister named Samantha, who's kind of like the spare heir. We follow a girl named Daphne, who's vying for the throne, and we follow another character. And it's kind of just a soap opera book about royalty. It's addicting. It's fun. I really enjoyed this series. It's like Gossip Girl meets royalty. That's the selling point, and I do believe it lives up to that selling point because I'm a big fan of Gossip Girl, but it was just a fun read. Again, like I said, I did much prefer American Royals over Majesty, which is why this is technically on the list, but I thought since this series, I should show you the second one. It's just a fun series. That's all I can tell you about it. Am I horrible today at reviewing things? Probably. Coming in at number 8 is Now That I Found You by Christina Forrest. This is a book that I read on an e-arc earlier this year, and I really, really enjoyed it. So this is about a character named Evie, who is an actress, and she is like the next big thing until one day her so-called friend does this viral video of her that kind of just tanks her career. And so she's really trying to revitalize her career, and she decides the best thing to do is to get her grandmother, who's like this legendary film star, to go to this red carpet event with her. And so she goes to New York to try to convince her grandmother, and then her grandmother, shocker, goes missing. So she pairs up with this guy named Milo to try to find her grandmother. And this book kind of takes place over the course of like a few days, honestly, and it's just a really fun, cute book, all about a character that really has this notion in her head about certain things, and Milo really kind of decides to change it for her and show her more things. And it's an adorable YA romance that I, again, as I always say, I eat up like literal candy, and I can't wait to read more of this author's books. Next up is The Upside of Falling by Alex Light. This is another YA contemporary that I just read on a whim that I really enjoyed. It was super cute. That's all I have to say about it. It's about this character named Becca who, you know, she doesn't have like a lot going on. She hasn't had a boyfriend before and things like that. And then her ex-best friend like taunts her like, you read all these romance books because she really loves romance books, but you don't know what romance really is. You've never had a boyfriend. And then she's like, yeah, I do. I have a boyfriend. And this guy just comes up and saves her. And who is it? But Brett, like this, the popular guy at school, the All-American quarterback. And he's like, yeah, this is my girlfriend. And so they pretend to date, you know, the classic fake dating trope. And you can guess what happens from there. It's kind of like To All the Boys I've Loved Before. It's just cutesy, romantic, and put a smile on my face the entirety of it. And that's what classifies like a favorite YA contemporary for me. It's just if I had a really good time reading it and smiled with it, that's all I really want from a YA contemporary, and I really love this one. Coming in at number 6 is Rent a Boyfriend by Gloria Chow. I read this recently. I've talked a lot about it. I love it so dearly. In this book, we follow a character named Chloe who has to go home from college for a few, days for Thanksgiving break with her family, and her family has been really pushing this guy on her to like get married to, and so she decides to kind of combat that. She goes on the site called Rent for Your Rents, and she hires a fake boyfriend, Drew, to kind of just appease her parents, get them to back off, and it kind of goes from there. It's an adorable, mushy-gushy, again, romance book that I loved. It taught me so much about Asian American families and about the parents, and just how Chloe was very just mindful of that. She wanted to really respect and honor her parents, but she also really wanted to be herself and identify like, this is who I am, take it or leave it, but also really try to honor her parents. And the relationship with her and Drew, it was just so swoon-worthy. I loved every second of it. I've talked about this one a lot. The next book is another kind of cheating book because it's, again, I don't know what it's labeled. Mystery, thriller, horror? I don't know, but I put it on this list. And that is Hoarded by Katrina Lono. This one I really, really loved. It's a perfect book to read near Halloween. It is the quintessential spooky, eerie YA book that you need to read, honestly. As we follow a character named Jane, and Jane's father has just passed away. So her and her mom decide to move back to New England and live in their old grandmother's house, which is kind of dilapidated and things like that. And when they move to this house, she learns that there's a lot of secrets about her family that she never even knew about. This house is also very ominous and creepy, and things are happening. And that's all I'm going to tell you about the book. It is just addicting. I say that word a lot, but it truly is. It's definitely eerie and has this haunted house vibe. And what happened in this family that she doesn't know about? Like, was her mom really telling the truth about her past, or is she lying? And gosh, the ending was just, I love the ending so insanely much. Well worth the read. Save it for Halloween time. You won't be disappointed. Another book I talk about quite a lot is A Cubans Girl's Guide to Tea and Tomorrow by Laura Taylor Namey. I love this book so much. I don't think a lot of people talk about it, which is a shame because it is sheer perfection in my opinion. It's about a character named Lila who lives in Miami, and she really loves her life until her boyfriend breaks up with her out of nowhere, and then her abuela dies. And so she gets really depressed, honestly. And so her family decides to send her to England to like her aunt's kind of like castle-y bed and breakfast to kind of just restart and try to just reset herself, if you will. So she goes there for the summer begrudgingly, but then she meets this guy named Orion and his friends, and they have a friendship, and she's also, sharing a lot of Miami spices and foods and things with the British culture, and she's learning more about the British culture. And this is technically like a romance book, but the romance is kind of minuscule. It's more about Lila discovering who she is and how to deal with grief and just heartbreak, and maybe learning that she could live somewhere else because she loves Miami so dearly, and she loves her family. So I just love this one so insanely much. Again, doesn't get talked about nearly enough, but people need to read it. Next up is one that I read in the very beginning of the year, but I still love it dearly, and it was like slated on. When I finished reading it, I was like, this has got to be on my top 10 favorites list, and that is Tweet Cute by Emma Lord. This is a book about two characters named Pepper and Jack. Put that together, pepper jack cheese, but they both have their families have rivaling companies. Jack has this kind of mom and pop's like deli, and they're famous for this grilled cheese. Pepper has her family has kind of like this big burger chain, and they just released this new grilled cheese that is people saying that it's a copycat of Jack's recipe. And so they both kind of run the Twitter pages of other companies, and they battle back and forth, not really knowing who each other is, even though they go to the same school. They get paired up at school, things happen. You can guess it. It's a hate to love romance that is just, again, ooey gooey cuteness that I love. Takes place in New York, just super cute, perfect summer read because summer is on the horizon, I say, as I look at the bleak winter outside. I love this one a lot. My second favorite of the year is Today, Tonight, Tomorrow by Rachel Lynn Solomon. I have read all of her books, and she writes predominantly really hard-hitting contemporary books, and this one is much different from that. It's much lighter, it's funner, it takes place in Seattle. We have a character named Rowan, and basically the book starts off on, like, it takes place in a day, honestly. So we start off on the last day of high school for Rowan, and she's helping to become valedictorian so she can beat out Neil for the final time. Her and this guy named Neil have had like this kind of competition for forever. They always try to one-up each other, and like the valedictorian is like the last contest, and then she doesn't get it. And so at the end of the school day, they have this big scavenger hunt that the seniors do every single year that takes them all over Seattle. It's kind of like a scavenger hunt and also tag combined. And somehow through a turn of events, Rowan and Neil pair up together to try to, you know, win together. And of course, you can guess, hate to love romance. It's amazing. There's also a lot of Jewish culture in this book because Rachel Lynn Solomon is Jewish, and I love learning about that each time I read one of her books. And it's just cute. Like, her books are usually so hard-hitting, so insanely sad, that this is a breath of fresh air. Like, it reminded me a lot of 10 Things I Hate About You. They even referenced that movie in this book. I just really, really loved it. Again, a great summer read book to just binge out on and just smile the entire time. And my favorite YA contemporary book of the entire year is, of course, Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. This was in my top 10 favorite books in the entire year because I love it that much that I want to talk about it twice. And this is a book that's told in verse, and it's about two characters named Camino and Yahiro. One lives in the Dominican Republic and one lives in New York, and through a turn of events they learn that they have the same father and that he passes away. And so basically it's about their communication back and forth of learning that they're sisters and grief and family, and just so impactful, so beautifully told in verse. I love it dearly. Elizabeth Acevedo has quickly become one of my favorite authors that I just love and adore, and I would classify this as a must-read, honestly. So yeah, those are my top 10 favorite YA contemporary books of the year. All of them are amazing. If you've got a lot of options on this book, on this list. You want some kind of mystery or like horror, kind of scary, or if you want hard-hitting or just ooey gooey romance, we can sense I like that a lot. You got a lot of options. So I hope you enjoyed this list and that I broke up kind of the favorites videos into 3 different genres. If you like that, let me know. If you want more top 10s of different things, also let me know. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.